Bulls showing some really good form going into the playoffs. My name is Mark. Let's talk rugby. Really good win from the Bulls in this one. We got to see, the power of that forward pack, but also, the creativity, the speed, the elusiveness of their backs as well. So, the best of the Bulls really. And Dragons, they didn't really, no real threat in the game. They got a couple of scores, but yeah, they're definitely a project for next year and maybe for, if they last long enough, for multiple years. So, first of all, before the game, we had a tribute for the former Bulls and Springbok player, Cornel Hendrikse, who sadly lost his life this week. So, condolences to his family and all who knew him as well. Very sad. Such a young life, cut short as well. Terrible thing to see, but a nice tribute before the game. Then onto the game itself. Bulls making a lot of gain line early on, carrying hard, keeping the ball moving, elusive runners. Moody then puts a kick in behind, collected by Hanekom, who dots down in the corner, but he was forced into touch, so it's no try. But they do get over the next time they attack off a line out. They move it off the top. The Clerk breaks the line and then has Creel in support, who goes over in the corner. Conversion missed, 5 points to 0. Wainwright then into the side, and the Bulls go up the line into 22. They set up the maul, but immediately they shift it. Visa picks a nice line and then shakes off a tackle to score, converted for 12-0. Bulls on top of the scrum, and from a dominant scrum, the Dragons, they come offside. The backs just too worried, I guess, about the Bulls, and then the Bulls go to the corner. Van der Merwe to Norkia, then Moody takes it up. They recycle a few times. Lovely missed pass to LaRue, who puts the Clerk over to score, converted for 19-0. Dragons then on attack off a scrum, move it quickly with some nice hands before Angus O'Brien cuts back inside and then straightens. Dragons then work the ball up to the line, but they knock it on. They did have penalty advantage. They opt for a scrum, but then Coleman gets pinged for collapsing and a great chance gone for them. Bulls then attacking into 22. They look to go wide, but Norkia's pass, went straight to Anderson, who basically was anticipating that, covering the outside. But then he gets held up by the Bulls. That they turn it into a maul for a scrum into 22. Bulls, though, they knock it on as they look to move it from that scrum, and Dragons are able to scramble the ball clear. From here, then, Bulls back into the corner from penalty. They drive the maul and over the goal for the bonus point on the stroke of half time. Van der Merwe is the score, converted for 26 points to 0. Then into the second half, Dragons showing a little bit more. There's a great hit and read, I think it was from Lloyd Evans, and that allowed the Dragons to win a penalty, and they kick to the corner. They then win another penalty as Hanekom had no clear release when he was going after the ball. So Coughlin then taps and goes. It's recycled, and then there's a lovely floated pass out to Anderson, who scores in the corner. Conversion is missed, 26 points to 5. Dragons then attacking on the edge of 22. Williams spots a gap, so he snipes and then dinks over the cover and gets there to collect his kick and score. O'Brien then missed a pretty, I think it was Angus O'Brien, right, was taking the conversion. But yeah, missed a pretty easy conversion, that one. The first one was difficult, but the second one he should have got. 26 points to 10. But that's kind of the end then of the Dragons mini revival. They're offside as they basically it was one of those, they knock it on to restart and the guy in front collects it. So Bulls are able to go to the corner and pretty much kill any momentum that Dragons had coming back. Van der Merwe comes off the back of the maul and he crashes over. And you just feel Bulls have finally woken up for the second half, because they look a little bit sleepy, in the way that they allowed Dragons to score 2 quick tries. Conversion is missed. It's 31 points to 10. Johannes then chips over into 22. Dragons let it bounce, and Moody gets there first, but then he knocks it on. If he had it collected, he was probably in to score. Bulls then do score, but this time it's off another dominant scrum. I think it's Van der Linde. He feeds Peterson, who steps back inside between two Dragons players and over to score, converted for 38 points to 10. Bulls then, their forwards trucking it up close to the line. They suck in that defence, and then the ball goes wide to the other side, and Peterson is in again. Conversion missed, 43 points to 10. Van der Linde then breaks from the restart. He feeds Peterson, who offloads back inside, and then there's another couple of lovely offloads as to keep the ball alive before Kutsia gets over the score, converted for 50 points to 10. Then Bulls piling on the pressure on the line, and then they decided that they're going to, go to the backs, and they shift it, and Devin Williams gets over. Conversions missed, 55 points to 10. And then finally, Dragons to the corner from a penalty. They go to the maul. The backs come in, and they manage to get over. Morgan is the scorer. Conversion missed, 55 points to 15. And Dragons, they think they're over again in the last couple of minutes, but Timo Czech correctly rules it out for a forward pass. So full time is 55-15. So let's have a look at the stats, and then we'll have a chat about each of the teams. So let me pull them up here on the official site. Hopefully they're up to date, because they did have the scoreline wrong for most of the end of the game, because they had it as 57-15, because they were crediting Johannes with the conversion of the Bulls' last try, but he definitely missed it. So let's see here. So first of all, on attack, tries, 9 tries to 3. So, Bulls really turning on, and, multiple try scores as well. Van der Merwe with 2, Peterson with 2, but then I think all the rest were just individual scores there for them. And then the Dragons with 3. If they had got that last one, they would have got at least a try bonus point, and they would have finally got into double figures for the points tally for the season, but it wasn't to be for them. Possession then 58-42. The Bulls, I think they did a lot more of the ball in the first half. The Dragons had that spell at the start of the second half, even things up a little bit, but then, the Bulls took over again. Clean breaks then 14-5, and defenders beaten 17 for the Bulls. So almost every time they beat a defender, it was basically a break, and that's worrying for the Dragons defense, certainly. Dragons, they beat 8 defenders, so, on attack at least, looking a bit better. Offloads then 7 for the Bulls, 4 for the Dragons, and some really sweet offloads from the Bulls in the run-up to some of their tries. Defense then, territory 59% to 41, so the Bulls playing, most of the game in the right areas of the field. Number of tackles 90 to 121. Just 8 missed tackles for the Bulls. That's really decent. 17 for the Dragons. So 87% for the Bulls is on the kind of high side of, what we look at as a pass mark, getting up there to being, not just good, but excellent in their defense, or at least their tackle success. But defense was pretty decent. And then Dragons, 81% is certainly not the worst we've seen in the last 2 rounds, but still against, this Bulls team, you've got to be a bit better than that, because the Bulls found it easy to cut them open at times. Turnovers won then 7-5, and, part of that was the Dragons, they had opportunities to score, and maybe like early on in the game to keep the game a bit tighter, but the Bulls got those crucial turnovers, and then were able to kick on after the Dragons had that mini revival in the second half. Onto kicking then, kicks retains 3 each. It wasn't really a game for a lot of contestable kicks, honestly. And then penalties, just 5 for the Bulls is amazing. 14 for the Dragons, just shows the pressure that the Bulls were applying to them. Onto players then. Peterson there with 2 tries for the Bulls. Also Van der Merwe got 2 as well. And then Anderson, the one picked out for one of 3 Dragons scores. Successful carries then. So Nama Zaba with 6 for the Bulls, and then Aaron Wainwright with 7 for the Dragons. He's a decent player, but he can't do everything on his own, for that Dragons team. Definitely needs a bit more help next year. Then clean breaks, Peterson with 2. And, that guy, he's got the pace and he's got the step, but he's also got that ability to just, when he's sprinting, to just change direction and not lose any pace. And he did that for his second try, where he just basically turned at a 45-degree angle and went between Roger Williams and I think it was Angus O'Brien, and in over the score, and didn't break stride at all. Just a brilliant player. Then Hugh Anderson with 2 for the Dragons as well. Defenders beaten then, Peterson with 4, and who was it? Owen, for the Dragons with 2. Meters made then, Peterson 64, Angus O'Brien with 42. I think most of those 42 meters for O'Brien was in that, that break in the first half where the Dragons almost got over the score. But, for me, it was stupid that they opted for the scrum, because the Bulls are clearly on top. But I guess they wanted to try and, tie in all those forwards. But maybe even a tap might have been a better decision, or even go to the corner, because they're out in the 5-meter channel anyway. And then offloads, 2 for Peterson and 1 for Angus O'Brien. Onto the fence then. So, Jabba with 12 tackles and Ben Carter with 16 for the Dragons. And then turnovers 1, Jabba with 2, and Owen with 2 for the Dragons. So, both teams putting in their tackles, winning their turnovers, but again, the Bulls, they not only had that defensive side of the game, but they certainly had the better of the offensive side too, and that's kind of what really decided this one. Okay, so let's have a chat about the teams. So Dragons, it's not unexpected that they've lost this game, and they've lost it heavily. And, it's been a season where you haven't seen much progress from them, honestly. Like, the one win they got was right at the start of the season, and then the URC win anyway. And then they got a win in the Challenge Cup as well. But other than that, it's a long season to just getting beaten week in, week out for them. And yeah, something definitely has to change there. Obviously, they have changed the coach this year, but, they've got to bring in some players to give them a bit more backbone, and give the likes of Aaron Wainwright a bit of a dig out as well. But yeah, it's kind of difficult to see where to go from here, honestly, especially when you think of, the state of Welsh rugby at the minute. It's just not like they've got money to throw around to fix the problem. That they've got to find smarter solutions. And for me, if I was the Dragons, I'd be looking at what Zebre have done, because Zebre, on a much, a small budget as well, much smaller than Bennett and Treviso, but they've been able to improve things as well. So maybe look at how they're going about doing that, and maybe try and replicate it, because, for the Dragons, you can't really look at the likes of the Bulls or Leinster or whoever, because those teams, not only do they have the financial clout, but they've also got, brilliant academies as well that just produce talent after talent. And, the Dragons, they're not gonna find, that kind of talent through their academy, like, just overnight. It's a long term project for that. And, they've produced some players recently, but, you look at the amount that other players are producing, and it's not enough. So yeah, a lot of work for the Dragons to do for next year. For the Bulls then, it's a game that everyone expects them to win, and to win well, but they went out and they did it. You look at teams at this time of the year where those are the expectations for them, and some don't deliver, but the Bulls certainly delivered there. The only thing for me is that the Bulls always seem to peak, a round or two before the end of the regular season. And then by the time they get to a semi-final or a final, the performance has dipped a little bit. So, hopefully for them this year, they've timed their run right. Final round of the regular season, a really good confidence boosting win to go in there. They're going to be second now. Seeds, there's no doubt about that. Well, we pretty much knew beforehand, right, that they were going to win, and therefore they're going to be second seeds. There's no way that Glasgow were going to reclaim that spot from them. And you feel like from there, if they win the quarterfinal, going to be home in the semi-final. And if they win that, then it's going to be like 3 finals in the 4 years that of the URC, since it changed to that format. So that would be absolutely amazing for them. Obviously, they'd like this one, if they do get there in the final, to have a different outcome for them. But, that's kind of for the future. But for now, Bulls looking really good going into the playoffs.